Hello, this is Lydia, the lifestyle coach, and I have such an awesome guest on today. You guys, this is a woman after my own heart. We have gotten some really fun chat time in, and it is amazing how much we are aligned and just her wisdom. And I'm so excited for you to hear more from her and about her. And we're just going to have a great conversation that I think you guys will enjoy very, very much. So for those of you who are new to the channel, hello, I'm Lydia. I help women to be free from food crazies using nothing but your own brain and a few common household items. Plus, you don't need the household items. So that's what we're here to do. And we have interviews and weekly videos every Monday. And one interview, which is the one today, is going to be so much fun. So I'm going to bring our guest on in just a moment, but I just want to do a quick introduction so you guys know a little bit about her. So this is Leora, and Leora Fulvio is a psychotherapist in the San Francisco Bay Area, specializing in the treatment of binge eating disorder and bulimia. So she is the author of Reclaiming Yourself from Binge Eating, a step-by-step guide to healing, and the creator of the 5-week program to stop binge eating for good. She is also on the board of directors of BEDA, the Binge Eating Disorder Association. So she's kind of a big deal, and she's willing to talk to me. So this is so neat. So we're going to bring her on. And Leora, welcome to the show.
Hi, Lydia. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm so happy you're here and that we get to chat. And so let's just start out. Tell us a little bit about why you do what you do. Like, share with us your story and how you got to where you are and why this is something that you care to make your career.
Sure, absolutely. So, like most people who are in this field, my own work came out of my recovery from disordered eating and disordered eating behaviors. It started when I was real young, real young. My mom was a chronic dieter and restrictor. She loved Weight Watchers so much. It was her favorite thing. And everything in our house was Weight Watchers margarine, Weight Watchers bread, Weight Watchers this, Weight Watchers that. And so there was never any fat in my house. There was never any sugar in my house. There was never any, certainly never any like cookies or ice cream or anything like that. It was all Weight Watchers or tofu or brown rice. You know, it was not so much fun. And being thin to my mother was also really important. And she struggled. I don't want to say she struggled with her weight, because now I recognize that her weight was quite low and quite okay, but she wanted to lose 4 pounds. And she had this 4 pounds that she wanted to lose every day of her life. And she would wake up in the morning and take her scale out and step on it, and it would say this number, and she'd get so angry and she'd kick it right back under the bureau. And she just couldn't lose this weight no matter what she did. And she did everything. She would, there was all this stuff in the 80s, like, what was his name? Richard Simmons, Sweating to the Oldies. So she would buy those. And there was these ab roller machines. I think it was called an Abdomax. She had one of those. And we had like this little apartment in New York City, you know, and so she would get all of her equipment and stuff like into our teeny tiny apartment. And there was, she had like an exercise bike, everything that she possibly could to lose this weight that she didn't really have. Like, there was no reason she had to lose it, because she was at her ideal weight and probably the weight that her body wanted to be at. And so I had that as a model. I also had a stepmom who didn't eat ever. She kind of lived on Diet Coke and Chardonnay. And so there was that model, and kind of all the women in my family just really kind of bowed down to the gods of skinny and thought that it was very important to be skinny. So in my head, I was like, well, I have to be skinny. And I wasn't, you know, that just wasn't my natural body shape. it was and is fine, but it wasn't skinny. I was like just built differently. And so when I was 10, I was inducted into Weight Watchers, like, you know, and I went in, and my mother had me on this Weight Watchers diet, and I would get weighed in every week. And like, she really wanted me to get down to a certain number that was, now that I kind of know more, it was like very low, very low. And don't know why they let a 10-year-old in Weight Watchers, but they did. And so then I was inducted into this diet thing. So I would do it with my mother, and I was really cautious about my, didn't have points back then, but it was my exchanges and everything that I put into my mouth. And lost the weight she wanted. And then I left Weight Watchers, and I kind of kept it up for a little while. And then I hit kind of my adolescence, pre-adolescence, like 13 years old, and started developing a little bit. And I started getting curvy. I started developing hips and breasts and all of these things that your single mother doesn't want to see you develop, you know. And she was like, no, I don't like this. You look like a woman. You're wearing women's sizes, and you're a little girl still, so we need to get you back on a diet. And at that point, and it wasn't because she was mean or bad. I mean, my mother was a lovely, lovely woman, but she really believed that it was absolutely wrong for me not to be skinny, and that it was going to ruin my life. Like, she really, really believed that. And so she thought that what she was doing was the best right thing for my mental health and my life. So, you know, and I had girlfriends, and they would all go out to pizza, and I wanted to eat pizza with my friends, but I couldn't. And so I was back in Weight Watchers, and this is when I figured out, okay, so I can just eat all of my calories at night, and I don't have to eat during the day, and then I could eat what I want, right? So so I stopped eating anything during the day. I drink like a diet soda or water, and then I would come home, and I would eat dinner, and then I would like have a snack, and at the beginning, I probably lost a little bit of weight, and then it just turned into kind of this like binge restrict cycle that went on for years and years and years and years. And there would be, and it got so bad. I mean, I would go, as I got into my teen years and my 20s, like weeks without eating a thing, you know, just lettuce and iced tea, like unsweetened iced tea, and then days where I would just like eat and eat and eat. And then again, days where I wouldn't eat, and days where I typical, you know, very typical. I remember when I first moved out to San Francisco, I would really just go all these days without eating, and then I would be so hungry, and I would call up like a restaurant at night, like 11, 12 o'clock at night, and I'd order like a party size. It was usually like an Indian food restaurant, because I really loved Indian food. And I would go and I'd order this like party, like for 6 people or something. And I would be so embarrassed when the delivery guy came at midnight and I was alone. So what I would do is I would get dressed and like put on makeup and do my hair and put on music, so it seemed like I had a party going on in the background. There were other people there. And then deliver because binge eating disorder is such a disorder of shame. And I was so ashamed, like I didn't want anybody to see what I was doing, and it was a secret. And then I would go, I would, you know, close the door and turn on the TV and just sit in my room alone, and I would eat and eat and eat until I was like uncomfortable, and I'd go to sleep. And I just couldn't get out of it. And every day I would wake up and I'd promise myself, okay, today's the day that I go back on my diet, and I'm only going to eat, whatever, like 1,000 calories a day for the rest of my life. And that's not what people should do ever. And so it, it, it was terrible. My mind was, I want to say, like, my mind was broken. My brain didn't work so well. Um, and the funny thing is, like, I never lost excessive weight and I never gained excessive weight. My weight kind of wavered, maybe a few pounds either way, which I now understand is what your body does to maintain the homeostasis. And as you so eloquently talked about in your set point video, unless you are a very unhealthy person, like, your body is going to fight to stay at its healthy weight, and it's very difficult to change. So when I was in my early 20s, I started to just really understand, like, and I did so much to heal. I went to Overeaters Anonymous, which wasn't super helpful for me at the time. I did therapy, which was more helpful. And then I did a lot of meditation. I started going to these meditation retreats, and started seeing myself more as a whole human, and not just this body that was that should look a certain way. And I started to come more into acceptance. It was certainly not overnight. This was years and years of kind of learning to be okay with who I was. And I mean, my disorder it attacked my brain. I mean, when you really have an eating disorder, you become very, I don't want to say self-absorbed, but you forget that people around you don't really care about you. So I would be walking down the street and I'd hear people laughing, and I'd say, oh my God, they're laughing because they think I'm fat. They're laughing at me because I did, as if anybody even noticed me, just like, a not standout person walking down the street, but I felt so other, and I felt so different. And I mean, that was so much of it too. And the kind of diets and stuff just fed into my belief that I was so different and I was so other. And this was probably a lot of my mom's stuff. Like, you have to be a certain way to fit in so people don't make fun of you, and people don't, and people like you. So that was really at the core of it. Like, I have to look a certain way and be a certain way so that people don't hate me, and so that I'm not other, and so that nobody will know that I'm really different. If I can be skinny, then I won't be different, and I won't be other. And then I read Anita Johnson's Eating in the Light of the Moon, which is a great book. And what I sort of learned from that book is that so many women who have disordered eating kind of come into the world as these really sensitive beings, and they feel really other because they happen to be these kind of like open, intuitive people. And then they kind of beat themselves up for it and try to be unsuspecting, be small, not be looked at. And that was certainly part of what I wanted, was not to be looked at, not to be seen. And so back to my recovery, like, there was that book, there was therapy, there was lots of meditation and meditation retreats, and learning that who I was okay. I didn't have to love myself. I didn't have to love my body, but like who I was okay. It was fine. And like, nobody really cared about me. Like, nobody cared like what I looked like. This person walking down the street didn't care. And they shouldn't, because they were busy thinking about themselves. And that was like, whoa, people really don't give a shit about me because they're too busy worrying about themselves. Me worrying about myself is like anybody else. So I was able to kind of let go of this worry and this fear of people thinking bad things about me, and worrying that people were thinking about me, or wondering why I put on 2 pounds or whatever it is, like whatever my eating disorder was telling me. So so that was like a big part of my recovery. And when I was like mid-20s, my mom actually wound up getting really, really sick, and she lost a lot of weight. Like she was already thin, and she lost another like 20 or 30 pounds. And her body just, it was like giving out. It wasn't working. And she passed away. She died. And I was kind of like, wow, she just spent 54 years obsessed with the scale. And then she died. And I, I even remember, like, before she died, she was sort of like, she was in the hospital and she was like looking at her body, and she said, I'm so skinny. And she had a cousin come in, and she's like, yeah, but now we can, after you get well, we can like go buy anything. We can go to the stores and you'll fit into anything, like all the size zeros. And again, it wasn't her fault. Like, that is what society, that is a message that society has given us. There was this, and I'm just going to go off on a tangent for a second here. There was this MTV VJ in the 90s, Duff. Do you remember Duff?
I don't, but tell me all about it.
Duff was a model. She was like, this was like way in the early days, and she was really beautiful. And she got sick and had to go through chemo. And I remember reading as a teenager, and I remember reading this article in like Marie Claire, Vogue, or like one of those magazines that I used to read when I was a teenager. And there was an interview with Duff about her chemo and her illness. And she was saying, people keep saying to me, like, what are you doing? You look great. And she's like, I'm going through chemo. Like, I'm sick. I don't look great. I'm sick. And I even remember then, even though I was in like the throes of my eating disorder, like, wow, this is really like effed up, like we so value people being so skinny that they look sick, that this is what people do to themselves. It didn't stop me, at that time, but I started to become aware of how kind of distorted and disturbed this was. So my mom died, and I was like, she just spent every day of her life, of her whole 54 years, like looking at the scale and cursing it for not being the right number. I never want to do that. I never want to be there. I don't care I don't care what my weight is. I don't care if I gain a lot of weight. I don't care what my body looks like. I want to be happy. Like, and I don't want to go through this anymore. And that was kind of, I want to say, like, really when I was able to 100% just like let go of all of it and just say, I'm done. I need to eat when I'm hungry, and I need to eat whatever I want, and I need to enjoy life, and I need to enjoy food, and that's okay. So I started working with women as a hypnotherapist, and doing, I was helping people kind of get under their binges and that kind of thing. And their binge eating disorder at this point wasn't, it wasn't a diagnosis. Certainly wasn't in the DSM, and it wasn't really talked about so much. So people came to me to lose weight, and I started talking about binging and binge eating disorder and what I had done. And as I started working with people more, I was finding that there was a lot of trauma underneath, and I felt really unequipped to handle that. So that's when I went back to graduate school to become a psychotherapist and learn more about trauma and disordered eating, and how that schema all comes together. and how the disordered eating kind of, and not everybody with disordered eating has trauma, but many people do, how when we stay in the disordered eating, we continue to victimize ourselves and traumatize ourselves. And what I really wanted to do was help people pull themselves out of that. And I think of it as being in this teeny tiny little box where you're continually abusing yourself, and you think you have to. Like, not only are you abusing yourself, but it is completely validated by society. Like, yes, this is what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be abusing yourself, and it's good. It's really good to abuse yourself. Like, good job, good work. Yeah, you lost 10 pounds. Oh, you didn't eat anything except for maple syrup and lemon water and cayenne pepper for 10 days. That is so great. Good for you. And I felt really angry about that. I felt angry that so many, I mean, not just women, men too, but so many people were being victimized by the message of society and then victimizing themselves. That after I finished school, I went and I interned at an eating disorder facility at an intensive outpatient treatment center. And I did several internships at these treatment centers and started specifically focusing on binge eating disorder and bulimia. I hadn't planned to go into bulimia, but I learned about it the more I worked with people with binge eating disorder. And I hadn't even realized that I had my own form of bulimia when I had been younger, because I was doing a lot of binging and running to kind of like get it all off. And that's when I learned about exercise bulimia and that kind of compensatory thing that women do. So my whole sort of mission in life is to help people live and not only to enjoy their lives individually, but when women, men too, but I'm going to focus on women for the specific point that I'm trying to make. So many women are stuck in this box that they can't think about anything else. They're just stuck thinking about calories and carbs and how many calories and carbs they eat, that it overtakes their life, and they can't go to medical school or go to Africa and help out, go to the Peace Corps, do all of these things. Be nice to their kids, like something simple like that. Smile at a person at the grocery store because they were too overwhelmed when they were in the grocery store. And all of these, the biggest to the smallest things, are what makes the world a better place. And I think that if we weren't so obsessed with being skinny and in the world, that I think there'd be a cure for cancer. I think that there'd be world peace. I think that the world would be a much better place because people would be less obsessed with trying to be different and more able to kind of be out there in the world and live their lives and kind of live their gifts, because we're all born with these gifts. And I don't think that anybody at 90 years old wants to look back and say, hey, I spent my life counting calories. So that's how I came to this place. That was kind of a diatribe. Sorry.
That was a beautiful, powerful, incredible story. Leora, there's just so much there. I just love it. Like, even those last points about what an amazing world this would be. Like, yeah. I feel so aligned with you in that. Like, I really think of what I do kind of art, like the mission that I think we're both on, as a feminist issue. Like, yes. Virginia Woolf in The Beauty Myth, she talks about, the beauty, regimen, all of this sort of thing is like the third shift, it's like, and it really is to keep women down, because it's like, yes. okay, well, you got to work and you got to take care of your family and all this. Oh, and you have to spend all your money and all your time thinking about beauty and thinking about dieting in these sorts of impossible, like you said, like in that box, right?
Yeah.
And I really think of it as like when you can have a woman be free of an eating disorder, it's not that they don't want to make change in the world. Like I work with so many women who are like, these are the things I want to do. These are the things I'm trying to do, but I'm mentally exhausted. It's like, I just think of it as releasing all these powerful women out into the world to just do what they already wanted to do, but they were completely obsessed with, like you said, calories and carbs.
Their gifts are being stifled, right? They have all of these gifts and it's like they're not allowed to use them because first I have to get thin. I can't do anything until I get thin. And then you know what, that cycle just brings you into the binge restrict cycle, and you never get where you want to be, you know, so you just have to let go of that and do what you want to do without it, and it's hard.
Yeah, and that's, I know that for me, absolutely, that was such a scary step to finally let go. And it's this sort of wishful thinking of, well, you know what, if I can just, right, just 4 pounds, like if I can just get this last little bit of weight off, then I'll finally be praised by society. I'll finally feel in control. I'll finally be able to rest, and then I'll do all the rest of what I want to do, not knowing that we can literally go the rest of our lives without allowing ourselves to like be happy and move forward, and that you can do all that stuff you want to do that you imagine yourself doing when you're like in a size 0.
Yeah.
You could do it now. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Exactly. And then the other thing that most people don't know is that once you get down to a size 0, there's no peace because you're so stressed out about losing that. And there's these like, I know there's a lot of like Instagram stars who just like take pictures of, you know, their bodies and themselves working out and all of this stuff. And what I understand about a lot of these people is that they are really struggling because then they're sitting there and they're like, oh my God, my whole fan base and my whole well-being is based on what I look like, which means my whole job in life has to be making sure that I look this way. And if anything happens, if I get my period, you know, and like have 5 pounds of water weight, my life is going to be over.
Yeah.
You know, and it really feels like that bad and that intense. So we sort of like idealize these people, but I have a sense that very few of them feel safe with where they are and okay and have it easy.
Yeah. Well, I know that with so many of the women that I talk to, this is a question that I love to ask them is, you know, they just have this sort of idea of like, well, if I can just get down to this weight, if I can just, right? And I say, have you been at that weight before? Yes. Were you happy? And it's like we shut this stuff out of our brain. Like, wait, no, I was there for an hour and I wasn't happy. Like you said, you know, like it's terrifying. And especially when your body is at this sort of leanness that is completely unnatural for your that set point, your body fights so much. You know, it's like if you take a picture of those, you know, abs with just like, for Instagram, like 2 hours later, you know, your body is always trying to push yourself from that place because that's not like a natural place for most everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, if you are somebody who's restricting, and then you eat like an onion, or one potato chip, you're going to gain weight. Like, but, and conversely, if you're kind of at whatever size you're supposed to be and you're eating even a little bit more than you should be, like your weight isn't going to and even if you have a binge, your weight isn't going to change significantly. You know, I used to be so scared every time I had a binge that I put on like 50 pounds. You know, some days I would go and I'd binge like 2, 3, 4 days in a row, and back then I would step on the scale all the time. I was obsessed with it, and my weight, it just 5 pounds up or down, you know, like just no matter how many miles I ran, no matter how many calories I restricted, no matter how many calories I binged on, like for a few pounds either way, God, that's a lot of wasted time and brain space, a lot of kind of pain I put myself through. And
Yeah.
so many of us do that.
I think so many of us have this idea of like, oh, well, I'm overweight because I've eaten too much. And I would suggest if you're overweight, I can almost guarantee you it's because you've been dieting.
Yeah.
Because you've been hurting your metabolism, and it's because you have been eating so much because your brain is in this mode of like, this is going to be gone any minute. We have to restrict, we have to diet. So we end up eating 5 times as much as we would have if we just were eating today and know we're going to eat tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So your story is just so incredible. Thank you for sharing that and being willing to, I know that it's resonating for so many people right now. Just like, it's incredible to me. And I mean, all of us are imperfect, for anyone who has kids out there, like it's your parents' job to mess you up somehow, right? It's like all of our stuff comes from, but it's like so many women that I talk to, like they're taught how to diet. Yes, there's a lot of pressure from society, but as a young child, a lot of us learn how to diet from our mother's dieting. And so many of us are concerned about the examples we are for our children. And it's like, just taking that brave step of, I'm not going to diet anymore.
Yeah.
Like that saves generations.
Exactly. And, when you think about why your mother dieted or anybody's mother is like such a dieter, it's because she was scared, right? What was she scared of? And so many of my clients are like, well, if I tell my mother that I'm not on a diet anymore, she's going to be angry at me. I'm going to say, tell her you're not scared anymore.
I love that.
It's okay for you to diet. Maybe you're still scared, but I'm not scared anymore. So I'm not going to diet, and please don't tell me to.
Yeah.
So it's, I'm just thinking about this client that I had who we worked and worked and worked on her not dieting, and she had really severe binge eating disorder, really severe. And her parents knew that she was in therapy with me. And then when she started talking to them about what we were doing and how I took a non-diet approach, they got really angry, and they had been paying for her to go to therapy. And they're like, we're not paying for you to go to this quack who doesn't want you to diet. She said, you're making up an excuse that you have this eating disorder so you don't have to go on a diet, right? It was, and she had a good family. I mean, they weren't bad people, but they thought that this was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And this is the experience for so many people. They're born into a certain body type, a certain, their body is a certain way, and maybe they're bigger than other people in their family. And then their parents say, oh, look, you're getting fat. You need to go on a diet. What if they never did that? Like, what if they never said that? What if their body was fine? They likely wouldn't have had to go through what they went through.
Yeah.
Or they might have got it in a different place. But, if their parents said, like, your body is perfect and you were built strong, and, your legs, no, you're right. You don't have little skinny stick legs like your friend Beth, but you have like strong gymnast legs like Mary Lou Retton or something like that. Or, Venus Williams, like, no, you're something like that. Like, really focused on their strengths, their instead of their perceived deficits.
Yeah.
How much different would that person grow up? Yeah, look at my thighs, they're strong. Like, I can run 5 miles, and that's so cool. I can jump. I can do all these cool things because I have these muscular thighs. Not like, oh, there's something wrong with me because I don't have thighs like Beth.
Yeah. And what would the whole world be like if we just finally accepted that women come in different shapes and sizes? That it's not like, oh, you don't fit into, this size and this shape and there's something wrong. It's like, wait, what? And just, it's so incredibly fabricated. Like the thigh gap Like that's a thing that came into the world that is just completely made up, that no one, you don't go to any museum with women carved out of marble accentuating their thigh gap. Like
Right.
it's impossible to find in art in certain eras, because it's like what we think of women and beauty is completely made up.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. It's actually, I was reading somewhere that thigh gap is actually um, sort of a physical impossibility unless you have this sort
You
of
have to have wide enough hips.
yeah, your hips
It
have to
has
be
nothing to do with
super
like, yeah,
wide. Right.
yeah. So it's, yeah, it's insane. It's completely insane. But we have these things, right? It's like if you send a woman, a powerful, strong woman, on an impossible task, you know, she's so powerful and strong, she may just keep on that journey for the rest
Right.
of her life.
That's
But we're
right.
sending women on an impossible task with what we have as our standards. So,
A fool's task, right? Like when
mhm.
you would send people on trips so that they wouldn't come back, so you'd get some space, right? Is that
Exactly, right?
what we're doing to women? Like, go do this over here, and we'll take care of the White House or whatever it is.
Yeah, but it's so incredibly insidious just how, you know, it's like we keep women small in this way. And it used to be, I feel like it used to be more of like an explicit, like, no, women, you can't vote, you don't have rights, you can't own property. And now it's like, hey, we're going to give you this task where you're literally going to pay for products to keep you in this prison, and you're going to spend your time and you're going to read about it, and you're going to completely change the way you eat and give away your whole entire brain to keep yourself imprisoned. It's like, let's get out of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So many things in your story. Let's just talk about everything. One thing that you mentioned, and I know that we're very aligned on this, and I'm really excited to hear your take on it. But for you, Leora, what place does like mindfulness, meditation, those sorts of things play a part in what you do and how you help women? And like, what do you feel like that's, you know, something that, how do you feel like it relates with an eating disorder?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think first off, when you are in your eating disorder, you are bypassing all of your needs, and anything that your body is telling you, you're not listening to that, and you're listening to what's outside of you. So, in terms of a diet, like I can only eat 10 carbs in a day, so um, I'm really hungry for fruit salad and yogurt right now. Like that's what my body really needs. But actually, I'm going to eat steak, even though I don't really want that. So you start to tune out these messages. You're hungry, but you have learned how to deny your hunger. So hunger doesn't even register for you anymore because you have learned how to shut it out. You're full, but because your body is trying so hard to um, regain all of the nutrients that it has lost with your restricting, that you can't stop eating, you know, and because you've learned how to sort of shut down and not listen to your bodily cues. So with mindfulness, what my attempt is helping people to start to listen, be aware of what they're feeling emotionally and physically. Emotionally, because if somebody, a lot of times people do emotional eating, right? So they're feeling stressed out, and so they go to food to calm them down and give them a serotonin boost and help them to just feel better in general, get all their dopamine going, you know. But if somebody says, oh, I'm stressed, I noticed that, take some deep breaths and kind of be with that and see, like, work on myself first and try and calm down that stress before I go to the food. And then, oh, I want to go to food. Am I hungry? What does my body need? What do I need? Yes, I am hungry. I know that I'm hungry. I can feel that I'm in tune with my body. What do I need to eat? Oh, I need fruit and yogurt right now. Okay, I'm going to go have some fruit and yogurt because that's what my body's telling me that I need. Um, wow, I've just eaten only half of this fruit and yogurt, but I'm actually feeling really satisfied. And if I finish eating this, I'll probably be too full. So I'm going to stop now and I'm going to put it away and I'm going to have it later, maybe in an hour when I'm hungry again. So mindfulness is really about becoming aware of what your body needs and what your mind needs and how you can support yourself, mind and body, by giving yourself these things without turning to food or turning to restricting.
Yeah, and I love how you make that distinction of like, it's both, right? It's like we'll have habits of turning to food and habits of turning to restriction. And on either side, it's, feeding the whole cycle, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I love how you're saying that, just that sort of awareness. And I think just that trust in ourselves of like, you know what, it's actually really powerful to just listen to what I have to say, like what's going on with my mind and my body. I feel like we're so taught as people, especially as women, that whatever is coming from this is wrong and is going to make you fat and is going to make you unhappy. If you listen to what your body is saying that you need, don't trust that voice, right? Trust this one over here.
Right. Let somebody who doesn't live in your body tell you what to eat.
Yep. It's like,
and nobody knows. Nobody knows what your body needs except for your body. So when you get really quiet and start to make space for it, it's going to tell you what it needs, and your body's going to come to its right weight. And I don't know that that's skinny or thin. I sometimes see a lot of, and this, I've seen this before on the internet. People are saying, oh, learn intuitive eating so you can lose weight. And that's not necessarily a thing either, right? I mean, it's your body, when you're not binging and you're not restricting, your body's going to come to its right weight. And that might be thin and that might not be thin, but it's going to be easy.
Yeah. And it's amazing. So I oftentimes will call this superpowers. Like, wow, I can just live my life and my weight stays the same. Like, wow, I can eat and my body tells me when I'm full. Wow, I can just go throughout my day. My body tells me when I'm hungry. And like, all this stuff feels like superpowers because it was like completely absent before.
It was hard, right? Like we get in our own ways. We get in our own way, we make things so difficult on ourselves, and it's just eating.
Yeah.
But when you work in the field that you and I work in, it's not just eating. It's so loaded and it's so big and it's so uncomfortable and painful for people. And so many people just beat themselves up because they're not doing it right. How can you not know how to do it right? I mean, everybody knows how to do it right, but everybody around us is telling us that we're not doing it right. Oh, you eat gluten? Oh, you eat sugar? Oh, you eat carbs?
Yeah, and all of these different messages too. So it's not just like the way that your body feels versus how the world would have you eat. It's the 14,000 different ways that are the right way. So you just get in this like cycle of like, sometimes I describe it like when you're really overwhelmed and you're in your house and you like walk to get the laundry out and you're like, oh no, I need to do the dishes. Oh no, I need to answer the door. And then you just walk in like little circles in your house,
Yeah, I know.
Right? We know this. So I feel like it's like that because it's like, oh, I should stop eating gluten. Oh no, I should stop. It's like, and we don't get anywhere, and we get so overwhelmed that we just do what we've done, which is binge, right? It's like, I can't figure this out today. I have to figure it out tomorrow because it's the most important thing in the world. So yeah, I love how you're describing just that mindfulness for my tribe who is listening. You'll recognize these principles as, I call it calling out the chatter, but it's just that awareness of like, what's going on in my brain, what's going on in my body, and the power in being able to do what you want to when you make that space, as you said.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about, I love how you just touched on this a bit, and I want to go a bit deeper with it. This idea of self-acceptance that you talk about, Leora. So I love how you said this, you don't have to love yourself, but you just need to be fine. You know what I mean? So tell us the distinction between like self-acceptance as in this sort of like, like everything's perfect, and just the self-acceptance, contrast that with what we need to do is just kind of like that neutrality, or like it's fine. Like, how would you describe that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I think we learn a lot about self-esteem and self-confidence, and we think that it's going to come to us, that we're going to learn how to like love ourselves and have self-esteem. And um, if you think about the most self-confident people, like the real self-confident people, they have this kind of like quiet confidence because they're just okay with who they are, and it's just like, who I am is fine, and I don't need to kind of like yell it from the rooftops, or convince everybody that who I am is great. I'm just fine being who I am. And I think that self-esteem is not about gaining something. I don't think you gain self-esteem, but what I think you do is you drop the negative messages. So I used to do this meditation. I did an eating disorder group, and I used to do this meditation where I had everybody imagine that they were hiking up a hill with really heavy backpacks full of rocks, and then they would stop and they would look through the rocks, and the rocks would say like, you're fat, you're stupid, you're not smart enough. They would just like take these rocks out of their backpacks, and little by little it would get lighter and lighter, and it got to the top of the hill, and they're just like, wow, that was a lot easier. It was a lot easier to get up there without the rocks in my back, and I feel good and I enjoyed this. But if you're walking up this hill with these rocks, it's going to be painful and unpleasant. You're not going to be able to enjoy the view. So a lot of it is just hearing the negative chatter and letting go of it, and not feeling like you have to follow it down the rabbit hole. Like you're fat, 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 you're fat. Oh, I hear you, but I'm not listening to you. Like, I hear you like an ambulance going by. And eventually, the less I listen to you, the less that you're going to bother me. And eventually, you're going to fade out. So, really not buying into those voices that tell you that there's something wrong with you. The more you kind of listen to them and then react to them, the more you keep that unhappiness in you. So it's not about gaining anything, it's about letting go. So we think, I'll be confident when I lose 10 pounds. It's not true. You'll be confident when you stop thinking it. You'll be confident when you lose 10 pounds.
It's a great distinction. Yeah.
Right. And you could do that right now. So confidence is sort of like, I think confidence is very overrated. I think that nobody starts out confident. Everybody starts out afraid. And if you let that fear keep you back, you're not going to gain confidence, and you can't wait till that fear goes away. You take that fear with you wherever you go, and eventually become less afraid of, I'll give you an example. Lydia, I imagine when you first started doing these videos, you were probably nervous, right?
Absolutely. It's like,
Right.
I'm going to make a fool out of myself. This is just like, I really had to get up the gumption of like, you know what? Let's say that I'm just completely embarrassing to everyone, but I said what I wanted to say. So there.
Yeah. Right. So you felt the fear and you did it anyway. And it got less and less scary as time went on, and you started to feel more confident with what you were doing, right? Because you can't feel confident until you practice. So you have to go into everything afraid. So then you accept the fear. Okay, I'm afraid. Of course, everybody's afraid. Nobody starts out confident. And if they do, like, that's different. That's pretty different.
Yeah.
But most people don't.
And just
most
knowing
people
the
are afraid.
normalcy of that, of like, you know what? No, of course it's going to feel weird. Of course you're going to be afraid because you haven't done this before, right? Like,
Right.
I know that I really emphasize with people practice. Like, you know what? No, no, who cares what the result is? Who cares? Like, yeah, you're afraid. Okay, let's just focus on practice. Because if you can just get down the road and like get some practice, like everything's going to change, right? It's in the doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's a big acceptance piece, right? Who I am at this moment is fine. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to get fat. People think that if they accept themselves, they're going to get fat. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
like
such a
saying,
common thing. Like, well,
right,
if I'm okay with myself, then I'll just gain all this weight and I'll never improve because I'm fine with myself. And it's like it's so opposite, but we do have this very prevalent idea like I can't accept myself or I'll get even worse.
right, right. And you think about, like, I always give my clients the example of children. Say there's two children, and one child has parents who beat him up every day. They're like, learn to read, learn to read. Why can't you read? Learn to read, learn to read. Why did you make a mistake? That's an E, not an F. And then the other kid has parents that are saying, oh, that's an E. Let's try. That was such a good try. That's great. Let's read some more. Which kid is going to learn faster? Which kid is going to feel better about themselves? And you when you have this voice it's not accepting and that's abusive inside your head, it's like having an abusive parent right there living inside of you. You have to talk to yourself the way you would talk to a child, who you want to encourage
Yeah,
in this
someone you
kind
love.
way, somebody you love. Exactly. You have to, really, acceptance is just about being kind, just
Yeah.
about being kind and accepting where you're at, and encouraging in the kindest, most supportive way. Like, it's okay. It's okay. You're okay. You're fine.
Yeah.
You know?
And you don't have to love yourself to speak to yourself like somebody that you love.
Right.
Like you can change that at any time, just change your tone. You don't have to believe it. You can be like, I'm going to lovingly talk to this person that I hate. Okay, but you know what? You're lovingly talking to them. So let's start there.
Yes. Yes, exactly. You start exactly just what you said. You start where you're at. You meet yourself where you're at. You don't try to change in order to try to change.
Yeah, just the
Just
doing, right? It's like,
yes.
okay, let's just get down the road. And I love the distinction that you made between like, okay, I hear you, but I don't have to listen, right? Like we don't have to internalize and say, oh, that's true. And yes, I should feel bad. You can just be like, oh, of course that's there. I would call it the chatter. Oh, hello, chatter. I recognize
Yeah.
you. You're the one who says that I can't do this. Okay. And then you just move on.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And it could get really, really loud. It could get really loud. And especially when you're trying to get rid of your eating disorder, it could get really, really loud and try to hang on because it really wants to be there. And it feels really safe and it feels really important. So the more you ignore it, the more it's going to claw at you and eventually it'll leave. It'll walk away.
Yeah. Which is an amazing feeling when you just
Yes.
sit with it. And then it's like, oh, okay. I know that something that comes up a lot is this idea of like, well, these messages, this chatter is at me and it will never let up until I binge. And it's like that first time that, as a woman with an eating disorder, that it lets up and you didn't binge to make it stop the sound. You just let it keep making the sound till it didn't make the sound anymore. And that's an amazing thing. And I want everyone to feel that.
Yes, I know.
I am so so grateful that you've been willing to share your story. It has been so fun chatting with you. Like,
it's been really fun. I loved it.
Thank you so much, Leora. Like,
Me too.
we found each other. This is perfect. So, and we're just so aligned in so many ways. And like we were talking, before we started recording, like there needs to be more good voices in this cause. And I know that you're doing so many wonderful things. Like you just told me, like really briefly, just with with BEDA and like the changes that we're trying to get the world to see and to serve women better. Thank you for all of the wonderful work that you do. So as we're kind of wrapping up our chat for today, I feel like there's so much more to chat about, but as we're wrapping up, anything else that's on your mind? It's like, what, like this would not be complete unless we touched on this, or do you feel like it's complete?
I feel like I could talk to you for another hour. I just really enjoyed this, but I think I'm good for now. I don't have anything else to add.
We'll have to do round two. We'll have to do an encore interview. So, well, thank you so much for being on. I really have appreciated, this time. So guys, thank you for watching. This is awesome. You are all better, more educated, more loving, hopefully, people because of it. And for more of Leora and all the amazing work that she does, look in the links below the video that will link you up to, her other resources and her courses and, all sorts of good stuff. So check that out, and her blog and her website, and we'll have all the info there. And of course, for your free ebook, and we have just on my side of things, we have the free ebook, How to Stop Binge Eating, and we also have our free Facebook support group. If you go to lydialifestyle.com, you can get to all of those good things, and of course subscribe here, because who wouldn't subscribe here? There's so much great stuff. There's a new video every single Monday, maybe for the rest of my life. I don't know. I'm not making promises, but for now, it would be a good idea to subscribe. So thank you so much for being on, Leora. And thank you guys for listening and being part of this great cause. Like when you hear it, you can be another wonderful voice in this empowering movement to just do what you want and be able to eat how you want and be fine and move on with your life and do all the wonderful things that you want to do. That makes it and it's so much easier when you're free. So let's get free together. And this is Lydia, the lifestyle coach, signing off. Mwah.